Hi everyone, my name is Kimberly Cook. I'm an engineer here at RKI Instruments. I'm here to show you some maintenance procedures for the GX8000. We're going to replace the filters, we're going to calibrate the sensors, and we're going to replace the sensors. So I'm going to start with the sample filter. To replace that, you need to turn this over onto the front and unscrew the battery pack screws. These two. Take the battery pack off. I'm actually going to turn this guy around. The sample filter is in the housing here. You need to turn it counterclockwise, like that, and then kind of use the yellow tubing to pull it out. You can see this white piece right here, that's the actual filter. Grab it, pull it out, then get your new one, put it back in. There we go. And then you need to stick it back the way it came, so you get it in there flat, and then turn it clockwise till it stops turning. This yellow piece needs to be pointing kind of parallel to the housing like that. And then put the battery pack back on. Okay, now we're going to replace the charcoal filter for the CO sensor. I'm going to use a coin to unscrew this housing. This is where the charcoal filter is. You can use a big flat blade screwdriver if you have one of those. So we're just going to unscrew, pull it out, and then you need to grab both sides and pry them apart. You can see there are two pieces here. The charcoal filters are in here. I like to use a screwdriver and just push them out. There are two of them, they're identical. Here you go, you can see two. These are, pretend they're the old ones, and then pretend they're the new ones. And put them back in. Okay, they're nice and flat, they're all the way in. And then you need to push these two pieces back together so they screw down until they're flat. There we go. And then just use the coin to tighten it again. It doesn't need to be overly tight, it just needs to be secure. There we go. And that is the filter replacement. We're going to move on to calibration. We need to turn our instrument on using power enter. It's going to go through its warm-up sequence. There's the date and the time, and the battery voltage. Those are the gases that are installed in this particular unit and their full scales. The warning and the alarm set points show. And then the STEL and TWA for the CO and H2S sensors. This is the ID screen. I don't have an ID programmed into this instrument. And then this is the normal operating screen. To get into calibration mode, use the reset and display buttons, press them both at the same time. Here's our air cal. You need to make sure you're in a fresh air environment. If you're not, you need to find some fresh air or get a cylinder of zero air. We're going to use power enter to get into this menu. It's telling you to push air. So I'll go ahead and push and hold air. It prompts you to hold it, prompts you to release it, and then it counts down from 30 just to give the sensors enough time to acclimate and get a good zero. So now we're done with our zero. We do need to still zero our volume sensor. So this instrument has 5 sensors, an LEL combustible, an oxygen, a CO and H2S, and then a volume combustible. And the volume combustible has its own special zero. So for this zero, we're going to use nitrogen here in this building because that's what we have. If you have inert gas, you need to use that. So I'm going to take my gas bag. This is my gas bag. It has a clamp. The clamp is open right now. I am going to hook it up to my GX8000 inlet because I want to make sure this gas bag is empty. So I'm going to hook it up and I'm going to let the GX8000 draw everything out of that gas bag, whether it was air or other gas. I don't want anything in this gas bag to dilute the sample that I'm going to put in it right now. So you can see my GX8000 went into low flow. I'm going to go ahead and clamp my gas bag shut now that it's empty. Disconnect it from my GX8000 and press reset. Start that pump running again. So now I'm going to take my nitrogen cylinder, hook up my gas bag with the clamp still on, or still closed. Go ahead and release the clamp and open the regulator. I have a 6 liter a minute regulator, so it's going to fill it pretty quickly. Okay, that should be enough. You don't need a whole bunch of gas. I'm going to close my clamp before I take it off the regulator and remove it. I'm going to hook it up to my GX8000 again. You can hear it going into low flow again. I'm going to open the clamp on the bag and then press reset. So now my GX8000 is drawing nitrogen from my gas bag. So I'm going to go to my Vol Z Cal, power enter. This is the oxygen reading and this is the methane reading. So you can see oxygen is almost down to 0 and the methane came up and it's to 0. Both of these readings seem stable. So I'm going to go ahead and push power enter. And my 0 cal for the volume sensor is done. I'm going to now calibrate my oxygen sensor since I already have nitrogen in my gas bag. So I'm going to go to 1 cal, press power enter, scroll to oxygen, which is here, press power enter. This is the reading from my gas bag. It actually says minus 0.2. So I want to adjust this reading as close to 0 as I can, but the instrument's resolution does not let me see 0. So you can see this says positive 0.2, and if I use my down button, now it says minus 0.2. So this is about as close as I'm going to get to 0. I'm going to press power enter, and I'm done with my oxygen sensor calibration. I'm going to go ahead and just take my gas bag off. And now I'm going to calibrate the LEL combustible, the CO, and the H2S using a 4-gas mix that I have already put in a gas bag, so you don't have to watch me fill a gas bag again. It's important to use the same type of gas for the LEL and percent volume sensors. If you use methane for the LEL sensor, you need to use methane for the percent volume sensor. Using something like methane for the LEL and butane for the percent volume can be dangerous. So I have this, it's closed. I did the same procedure that you saw me do for the nitrogen. I'll put this on here. I got a flow fail. I'm going to go ahead and open the clamp and press reset. So now I'm drawing gas from my 4-gas mix gas bag. So I want to get back into 1 cal. We're going to start with the LEL combustible. I am using 50% LEL methane for my calibration. You need to use whatever gas is appropriate for your application. And it's also important that you calibrate the LEL combustible sensor before you calibrate the percent volume combustible sensor. Percent volume levels of gas will hurt your LEL sensor, and you need to let it have enough time to settle back down. So I need to get this reading to go down to 50% LEL because that's the concentration I have in my bag. There we go. And I'm going to move on to my H2S. I have 25 ppm H2S here. I just need to bring that reading down to match the concentration in my bag. So push enter, and then I'm going to move on to the CO. Again, I have a 4-gas mix in this gas bag, which is why I'm doing these 3 sensors at the same time. I have 50 ppm CO, so I need to bring this reading down. Okay. So the last sensor I have left to do is now my volume combustible sensor. And what I'm going to use for that is 50% volume methane, because that's what we have in the building. Again, you need to use whatever combustible gas is appropriate for your application. So this is my gas bag of 50% methane. I'm going to hook it up. It's going to go into flow fail. I'm going to release my clamp, press reset. So I need to get back into my 1 cal. This is the LEL combustible. You can see the percent LEL here. Just press air to get to the volume combustible. So I'm drawing from my bag already, and it says 51. Again, I'm using 50%, so I need to bring it down. Okay, so now I'm done calibrating all of my sensors. So now I want to back out of this calibration mode. So I'm going to scroll until it says escape. Let's say power enter. Now we're going to scroll till it says normal. And now we're back here at the normal screen. The LEO is still warming up because we just applied that very high percent volume gas to it. So I'm going to turn the instrument off now, even though it's not fully back to normal. Oh, here we go. Now it's back to normal. I'm going to turn the instrument off so we can replace the sensors. And the sensors are here. This is the charcoal filter that we replaced earlier. To replace the sensors, I'm actually going to unscrew these 4 screws and leave that charcoal filter where it is. Okay, so in here are the sensors. I'm going to take this gasket out first. This gasket covers all the sensors. And then here are all the sensors I have installed in this instrument. This is oxygen, volume, CO, the LEL combustible, and then the H2S. So I'm just going to pull this volume sensor out so you can see it. You can see the pins on the back, and you can see the sockets in there that the pins need to line up with. To put the sensor back, I try to look at the pins and get them lined up with the sockets as best I can, but then I try to kind of spin the sensor to make sure those pins are engaged before I push too hard so I don't bend the pins. So that seems fine to me, so I'm going to push firmly, make sure it's all the way down. Replace whatever other sensors you need to replace. The gasket here is keyed because to fit around all of the other sensors, so just make sure you put it in the right way and push it so that it's nice and sealed around the whole sensor face for each sensor. And put the lid back on and tighten those 4 screws back up. And that is the end of the maintenance instructions. We got the filters replaced, and we got a calibration done, and we replaced the sensors. Thanks, guys.